absolutely heartbreaking at only 54 years.
Absolutely great, man. I'm so sorry to his wife. We had such good times together. I was probably 18 and Malcolm was probably 17, 16, I don't know.
Wow.
And we would take walks together, all of us, and pick up food, talk, played basketball, hung out on the weekends, went to parties together. He was so good to me.
The announcement of Malcolm-Jamal Warner's tragic and unexpected passing left the entertainment world in mourning, and though the shock was already heavy, the emotional reaction from Adam Sandler has sparked even more conversation, concern, and heartbreak. "I hate to bring up the sad news," a reporter began, but news did break today of the untimely passing of Malcolm. Adam, visibly shaken, could only respond, "I can't believe it. I can't believe it." Warner, who died at the age of 54 in a reported drowning accident while vacationing with his family in Costa Rica, had left behind not just a body of work, but a legacy and impact that ran deep through generations of viewers and fellow actors alike. Sandler's words were more than a public statement. They felt like a piercing truth, a window into a friendship that went beyond the screen. He recalled their time on The Cosby Show. Adam played Theo's friend Smitty back in the late 1980s, while Malcolm had already made a name for himself as the beloved Theo Huxtable. Despite their different screen time, Warner never acted like the bigger star. "Malcolm was so nice to me when I was on the show," Sandler remembered, "and we had such good times together." He described walks they took, picking up food, playing basketball, hanging out at parties, laughing and growing together as teenagers. Sandler was around 18 then, Warner 17 or maybe even 16. But what stood out in Sandler's recollection wasn't just the fun, it was Warner's warmth, his grounded personality, his sincerity. "He was just real," Sandler said. "It wasn't just a Hollywood friendship. The love extended beyond just the two of them." Warner's mother, Pamela, also left a lasting impression. Sandler called her amazing, showing that their relationship wasn't fleeting or superficial. It was something genuine that endured well past their television years. "He was so good to me as a person," Sandler said, struggling through his emotions. "I'm just sending love to the family. Malcolm is a true great person. Hilarious, smart, just a great man." Then came the words that made everyone pause. "I don't know, man. It just doesn't sit right. Malcolm was careful. He was strong. Something feels off." And suddenly, what had been a heartfelt tribute transformed into a cloud of speculation. Could there be more to Warner's death than what's being shared publicly? Was this really just a drowning accident, or something else entirely? The official report stated that Warner drowned while swimming during a family vacation, allegedly pulled under by a rip current. But Sandler's subtle hint of unease stirred doubt. After all, those who knew Warner closely are starting to ask questions. Questions that no one seems ready to answer. Warner had always been known for his private, cautious nature. He kept his wife and daughter out of the public eye and revealed very little in interviews, preferring to let his art speak for him. So why is the coverage of his death so vague? Why are there no detailed reports from Costa Rican authorities? Why hasn't the autopsy or incident report been made available to the public? Fans who followed his career and respected his discretion find the silence deafening. Sandler's off-hand comment, perhaps an expression of grief, now feels heavier in the context of Warner's known character. He wasn't reckless or careless. He wasn't the type to take unnecessary risks, and he certainly wouldn't have done so with his family nearby. It's this gap between who Warner was and the circumstances of his death that has everyone wondering if something has been left unsaid. Sandler's moment with Entertainment Tonight was raw, unscripted, and deeply human. He didn't just grieve his friend. He reminded everyone how much Warner mattered, not only as an actor but as a man. As the interview spread online, others in the entertainment world began reflecting too. Malcolm-Jamal Warner wasn't just Theo from The Cosby Show. He was a poet, a thinker, a creative force. After his time as a child star, he continued building a diverse and thoughtful career. He co-starred in Malcolm and Eddie, then starred in Read Between the Lines with Tracee Ellis Ross. He expanded into directing and quietly mentored up and coming creatives. Every role he took carried dignity, depth, and an unmistakable sense of purpose. But perhaps most intriguing is what Warner had been working on in the time before his death. A personal memoir, a deeply intimate project insiders now say may have revealed untold truths about his time in Hollywood and the hidden struggles he faced. According to sources close to him, Warner had been writing in secret. The manuscript has not surfaced, but whispers of its contents are already raising eyebrows. Some close to him have pointed out discrepancies in the reports about his passing. Some stories said he was alone in the water, but if his family was there with him, where were they at the time of the accident? Why is no timeline being shared? Why is no official statement from Costa Rican authorities clarifying what happened? These questions, while unconfirmed, are growing louder by the day. Fans aren't looking for scandal, they're looking for closure. And in a world where secrets often remain buried, the uncertainty around Warner's final moments has become impossible to ignore. It's true there is no evidence of foul play, no official conspiracy. But in Hollywood, where public image is curated and truth often gets buried beneath contracts and PR strategies, silence is rarely innocent. And it's Sandler's silence, his hesitation, his shift in tone, that is perhaps the most telling. Adam Sandler, a man known for laughter and light-hearted roles, wasn't making noise or trying to stir drama. But his quiet heartbreak and subtle discomfort told the audience more than he realized. He wasn't just grieving, he was troubled, and that unease has left many fans feeling the same. In the final moments of their conversation, the air was heavy, not just with sorrow, but with the weight of a truth that still feels out of reach. As others in the entertainment world began reflecting on the legacy of Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the conversation shifted from sorrow to significance. Warner was never just an actor, and he certainly was never just a character. He was a man who evolved into a thinker, a poet, and a creator. Someone who used his platform to speak truth even when it was uncomfortable. After his breakout role on The Cosby Show, Warner didn't fade into the background like so many child stars do. Instead, he reinvented himself with purpose and precision. He found new footing on the sitcom Malcolm and Eddie, co-starring with Eddie Griffin, and later appeared in Read Between the Lines alongside Tracee Ellis Ross. Quietly and consistently, he also stepped behind the camera, directing television and mentoring younger artists. Over the years, Warner cultivated a reputation as someone who brought grace and substance to every project he touched. But what many didn't know was that behind the scenes, he had begun working on something deeply personal. A memoir that those close to him believe may have contained unfiltered revelations about the hidden side of Hollywood and the burdens he carried for decades. Though the manuscript has not been found, its rumored existence adds another layer to the mystery of Warner's death. People close to him have begun questioning details that seem out of place. Early media reports stated that Warner drowned while swimming alone, yet he was vacationing with his family. So where were they at the time? Why has there been no clarification from Costa Rican authorities? Why is the incident report sealed, and why have no autopsy results been made public? Add to that Adam Sandler's cryptic remark that something feels off, and it is no surprise that a wave of unease is spreading among Warner's fans and peers. For many, this doesn't feel like just another tragic accident. It feels like a story with missing pages. Warner's commitment to privacy was well known. He kept his wife and daughter completely out of the public spotlight, and was known for giving carefully measured interviews. But even in those quiet moments, he let slip ideas that made clear how deeply he was thinking about identity, culture, and the pressures of being Black in America. In fact, in the final episode of his podcast Not Allhood, released just 2 days before his passing, Warner shared what many now believe was his farewell message. The episode was not celebratory or casual. It was honest, reflective, and raw. He spoke about a conversation he had with spoken word artist Tamika Georgemi Harper. When he told her the name of his podcast, she replied, "Ain't nothing wrong with the hood." That one line stuck with him. It pushed him to reflect on the ways in which mainstream media distorts the image of Black culture, always framing it through the lens of struggle, violence, or dysfunction, while ignoring its richness, beauty, and power. Warner made it clear that he wasn't trying to turn his back on the hood. He was calling out the system that profited from its pain while refusing to honor its value. In his own words, the hood side, ultimately, historically, is what has always created American culture. It was a powerful statement about cultural theft and erasure, and the quiet fury he carried about how Black voices were treated, especially in places like Hollywood. This wasn't just commentary, it was legacy work. He was building a platform to elevate unheard stories, to correct the narrative, and to shine a light on truths that had long been ignored. His commentary extended even further. Warner got deeply personal in that podcast episode, questioning the meaning of the term Black excellence. He admitted that, at first, he was skeptical of the phrase. It seemed like it only applied to those who had money, awards, or fame. But his view changed after learning that Black soldiers were being left out of history books at Arlington National Cemetery. That realization cut deep. It showed him that Black excellence wasn't just about success, it was about survival. In his words, Black survival in and of itself is Black excellence. That line struck a chord with listeners, and now, in the wake of his death, it hits even harder. Looking back, it feels as if Warner had a sense of urgency, as if he knew time was running out and wanted to make sure his final message was one of truth, empowerment, and courage. Just 48 hours after sharing those raw reflections, he was gone. The timing has left many wondering whether his final podcast was more than just a creative project. Was it a planned goodbye? Whether coincidence or fate, his last episode now stands as a powerful summation of his beliefs and purpose. And yet, for those who watched him grow up, Warner will always be Theo Huxtable first. The witty, relatable teenager from The Cosby Show brought humor, heart, and realism to the role week after week. But what audiences didn't always see was the emotional cost of being forever tied to a show that later became stained by scandal. While other cast members faded or got caught up in public controversies, Warner stayed remarkably grounded. He kept his personal struggles private and refused to let tabloid headlines define him. He was never the child star who spiraled out of control. Instead, he matured with a quiet grace that many found inspiring. But that doesn't mean he didn't carry a heavy emotional burden, especially after the fall of Bill Cosby. Warner had been just 13 when he was cast as Theo, chosen from a nationwide search. Cosby had been more than just a co-star. He had been a mentor and a role model. The advice Cosby gave him, like avoiding trendy slang and scripts so the show would age well, stuck with Warner for years. He even said he realized how true that advice was when rewatching episodes with his own daughter. But that bond, that sense of guidance, made Cosby's downfall even harder to process. When over 50 women came forward with allegations against Cosby, Warner was thrust into an impossible position. He was expected to speak, to condemn, to distance himself. And yet, what he felt was more complicated than what headlines could capture. In a 2015 interview, Warner said, "He's one of my mentors. just as it's painful to hear any woman talk about being assaulted, whether true or not. It's just as painful to watch my friend and mentor go through this. He wasn't defending Cosby, nor was he excusing anything, but he also wasn't ready to publicly destroy the man who had helped shape him. I can't defend him, Warner added, but I won't throw him under the bus either. His position sparked criticism, but it also revealed his emotional struggle. For Warner, the scandal wasn't just about public morality, it was about personal grief. The media circus that followed, the loss of the Cosby Show from television syndication, and the financial hit that followed all contributed to his pain. He lamented that the show, which once offered a rare positive depiction of a black family on television, had been erased. In a few generations, he said, the Huxtables will just be a fairy tale. He pointed out that other artists like Woody Allen and Roman Polanski, both surrounded by controversy, still had their work available to the public, but the Cosby Show was gone. It's literally taking money out of my pocket, he added. The loss was financial, yes, but more than that, it was spiritual. He had lost a piece of his identity, and for Warner, that was the hardest part to reconcile. What sets Malcolm-Jamal Warner apart from so many of his peers is not just his talent or longevity, but the fact that his life never spiraled into the chaos that so often engulfs young stars. Unlike many child actors who lost their way in the glitz of fame, Warner stayed grounded, disciplined, and clear about who he wanted to become. That foundation came largely from his mother, Pamela Warner, who managed his career with a steady hand and instilled in him a sense of discipline from an early age. Even during the height of his fame in the 1980s, Warner was already thinking deeply about the kind of person he wanted to be. In 1988, while still in his teens, he authored a book titled Theo and Me, Growing Up Okay, in which he gave advice to his young fans about how to make smart choices and avoid trouble. That early commitment to purpose over popularity was no passing phase. It was a lifelong theme. As Warner matured, his work grew more meaningful and his projects more personal. He never settled for easy fame. He poured himself into music and spoken word poetry, eventually earning a Grammy for Best Traditional R&B Performance, and later securing another nomination for his spoken word album. He continued acting, but his roles expanded beyond sitcoms. He took on crime dramas like Major Crimes and The Resident, and also appeared in critically acclaimed series like The People v. O.J. Simpson. Every performance seemed to carry his unique blend of intelligence, emotional depth, and integrity. What makes his story even more remarkable is what did not happen. There were no scandals, no meltdowns, no tabloid headlines screaming his name. Warner once said he hated being called Theo, not because he disrespected the role, but because he wanted the world to see that he had grown, that he had evolved. He didn't want to be boxed into a teenage version of himself. So, he got to work breaking free of that image. He directed episodes of Kenan and Kel, continued creating music, and used every opportunity to deepen his artistry. His projects tackled real issues. His Grammy-nominated album Hiding in Plain View and his short film You Can't Hear Me addressed topics like racism, the prison system, and deportation. These were not trendy themes. They were subjects Warner cared about deeply. His father had encouraged him to study black leaders like Langston Hughes, and their influence ran through his work like a steady current. Warner's transformation from a sitcom teen to a socially conscious artist was no accident. It was a result of intentional growth, relentless focus, and an unwavering commitment to staying true to himself. But his life was not without heartbreak. Behind the scenes, Warner experienced private pain that shaped who he became. One of the most devastating moments in his life was the death of his former girlfriend and Cosby Show co-star Michelle Thomas. She played Justine, Theo's love interest on the show, and even after their romantic relationship ended in 1994, they remained incredibly close. In 1997, Michelle was diagnosed with a rare form of stomach cancer. She passed away the following year at just 30 years old. Warner was reportedly by her side when she died. The loss hit him hard, but instead of making it a public ordeal, he grieved privately, with quiet strength and grace. That experience likely influenced his thoughtful and guarded approach to love and relationships. Years later, Warner entered into a high-profile relationship with actress Regina King. They had known each other since their early days in the industry and began dating in 2011. They even lived together during their relationship, but when it ended in 2013, it was messy and public. According to reports, Warner asked Regina and her son to move out suddenly. In a 2015 interview, Regina revealed that Warner had broken up with her on Valentine's Day, and then followed up by sending her flowers with a note that read, "I still love you." Regina's response was just as dramatic. She threw the flowers in the trash. The contrast between this public breakup and his earlier loss of Michelle Thomas couldn't have been starker. One was private, tragic, and deeply emotional. The other was exposed, chaotic, and laced with public drama. Both experiences seem to teach Warner that love is delicate, and that fame can turn even the most personal heartbreak into headlines. After that, he chose to keep his romantic life completely private. He stopped speaking about relationships in interviews and avoided the spotlight when it came to matters of the heart, not out of bitterness, but as a form of self-protection. These two relationships, in very different ways, helped shape the man Warner became. He learned that while love can be beautiful, it can also be painfully public when you're famous. From that point on, he chose to protect the parts of his life that mattered most. And now, in the wake of his death, many fans have started to notice a troubling pattern, one that feels too familiar to ignore. Every time a prominent black celebrity begins speaking openly, challenging systems of power, or trying to tell a deeper truth, something tragic seems to happen. Warner was not just reminiscing about the past, he was building something for the future. His podcast had become a space for real talk about what it means to be black in America. No filters, no scripts, just truth. He used that platform to speak directly to his audience, and perhaps that truth telling came at a cost. Whether or not there is any hidden cause behind his death, what is certain is that Warner's voice had become more urgent, more fearless, and more focused in his final days. That's part of why his death has hit so hard. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was not just an actor or a character from a beloved show. He was a trailblazer for young black actors, a cultural icon, and a man who refused to be silenced. And for those who truly knew him, like Adam Sandler, he was more than a friend. He was family. Whether the full truth about his death ever comes to light or remains obscured by silence, one thing is clear: Warner's story isn't over. If there's more to be revealed, it may already be in motion. Because sometimes it's not the facts that spark suspicion, it's the silence. And right now, the silence surrounding Malcolm-Jamal Warner's final moments is louder than any official statement. As fans revisit his final podcast, replay interviews, and remember his body of work, they are not just mourning the loss of a man. They are carrying forward the voice of someone who dared to speak from the heart. And that voice, even in death, continues to echo.